Okay, let's get started on 92. Let's see. Intermediate Algebra Unit 0, Lesson 1 warm-up. We're going to be talking about inequalities. So we want to remember what the symbols represent. So this guy right here, that is what kind of symbol? That is a greater than. There are different ways that people remember which is which. If you have 7 is greater than 5, there's like the Pac-Man one and the alligator one. However you want to remember, they say that the teeth face the bigger one because it's scared. I don't know if that works for you or not, but somehow you need to remember that this is a greater than symbol. This one then is the greater than or equal to. This is the less than, and less than or equal to. The ones that have the or equal to part, that's the little line underneath. So this is a greater than. It's considered a strict inequality. Okay, things are only less than. The other ones are, it can be that number if it's equal to or greater than. Okay, so this is also a strict, sorry about the handwriting, inequality. And then when we go to graph them, these are the inequality symbols. And then their graphing symbols, you may remember, is the open circle versus the closed circle. The open circle means that it's not equal to that number, but it's infinitely close to it, but not actually it. And this is equal to. So when you go over here and look at this statement here that says x is greater than 3. 1, 2, 3, x is greater than. Some people put it right on the graph, so I like to put it above just so it doesn't mess up all my numbers, but this is greater than 3. That means it's not 3. 3 can't be the answer, but it can be infinitely close up to 3 without being 3. But it has to be greater than 3. All right? So x could be 4 is greater than 3. 3.1205, whatever, is greater than 3. Okay? As long as it doesn't equal 3. That's a strict inequality. It has to be greater than. Okay, and it's an open circle because it's not equal to 3. This one has a less than or equal to 3. So that means it can be 3. Okay, but it can't be 3.1 something. It has to be, 2.999 something, which would be less than 3. So 1, 2, 3, that would be a closed circle going that way. Okay. Some people put it right on the line. They go like this and they go like this and kind of scribble on it. That's fine too. Have your teacher tell you what they prefer, okay? As long as I can figure it out, I'm good. All right, this says 8 is greater than or equal to 8. So you can put that anywhere, start anywhere on the line here. So if that's 8, then that's 7, that's 6, 9, 10, whatever. So it can be 8, so that's a solid circle, and then it can be anything greater than that. All right, watch these that are backwards. I don't know that I can read this, so the first thing I do when I see those, see how the symbol, the inequality symbol is pointing at the x? Make sure it points to the x, write it down, and then I can say x is less than or equal to 2. Less than or equal to 2. And I like to write it down now. See how this inequality points to the left? That way this inequality points to the left, okay? This one here points to the right. This one goes to the right. So the inequality symbols should be facing the direction your arrow goes, which is why I like to turn them around like that. All right, -1, so 0, 1, -1, less than -1. The K is the variable, right? The letter that represents different things, different numbers. it's open to the k, so we want to write this like this. So -8, put that on the scale, and then it's greater than but not equal to. Okay, be really clear about your circles. I've seen some people make such small circles I can't tell if they're open or closed. I'm just going to mark that wrong, so make sure it's very clear as to what you mean. Okay, and then we're also going to need to remember how to solve for x. Solve linear equations. This is a linear equation because it has x to the first power. X to the second power are quadratic equations. Linear equations make straight lines when they graph them. Quadratics make parabolas. So that's kind of a whole nother, that's in 2D graphing. But anyway, this is a linear equation. And it's an equation because it has an equal sign. So solve for x. That means we want our final answer to be x equals something. So I use the Dear Charles Moves In thing. Just to remember, if there's anything to distribute, do that first. Then there's combine like terms. And then there's the move across the equal sign, which is where we're going to start. I want to move this 8 to the other side. I mean, our goal is to get, what did I say, 8x equals something. So I want all my x's over on the left, and all my constants or my plain numbers over to the right side, okay? So that means I have to move. So that means I want to move this 8 to the other side. I do that by adding opposite, okay, to both sides. All right, now that moved my constants all to the same side. So I want to move my x's back to the other side, which means I'm going to focus on moving the 5x the other way. And whatever I do to one side, I do the other side. I want this to go away on this side and to add up to a 0, okay? Over here, this is going to add up to a -3x. Bring down the -15. So that's add opposite. And then I want to isolate by multiplying or dividing by same. That has to do with the sign. Notice I added the opposite to get a 0. This time when I want to divide by the same, so I get a 1x, okay? So whatever I do to one side, I do the other side, and I get a +5 for my solution to the linear equation. That means I can put a 5 back up in here. You can check. 2 times 5 plus 8 equals 5 times 5 minus 7. So that's 10 plus 8. That's 18 on one side. 25 minus 7 is 18. Okay? So you can always check linear equation. And then this one says use the less than or greater than symbol to write in here to write a true statement. Well, I could do some math, or I could just notice that this is a negative number. Negative numbers are always less than positive numbers. Okay? All right. So we're going to talk about solving and graphing and giving interval notation for linear inequalities. Okay, so we've left equations. Now we're going to inequalities, which is the less than or greater than. So I'm going to read right here. Using parentheses to graph an inequality instead of circles. Using parentheses to graph an inequality instead of circles reduces the errors when converting the graph into interval notation. So these are parentheses, these are parentheses, those are brackets, and that's set notation. These are all types of parentheses, okay? So that's why it says use parentheses. So these are referred to as hard brackets or square brackets. When they look like that, that is a type of parenthesis. And then instead of closed circles. Okay? Soft brackets or curved brackets are instead of the open circles. And we want to do this because that's how we're going to get this interval notation done here. Okay? So it's another way to say the same thing. So when it says x is greater than or equal to -4, let's see, 1, 2, 3, that's -4 down here. So I would normally put a closed circle on the 4 and go this way with the line. Well, now I want to use interval notation, parentheses here, and if it's equal to, it's the square bracket, and we're going to go like that. Okay, so this one says that's a positive. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a positive 4, and it says it's less than, so it would be an open circle and going this way. Well, now this is going to be a soft bracket going this way. That's all. We're just switching out the brackets. So we want to do that so we can write interval notation. So interval notation is two numbers, the first number being the smallest number, and then there's a comma, and then the second number is the largest number. And then see how some of these graphs go on forever in one direction or the other? And if it goes on forever, we want to use an infinity symbol. Okay? So if it goes to the negative on forever, you want to use a negative infinity. If it goes to positive forever, you want to use a positive infinity. If it goes both ways infinitely, then you want to use both of them. So what would be the interval notation for up here for A? This has this hard bracket on top of the -4, and it goes infinitely to the positive direction. Okay? So that's how you can write x is greater than or equal to -4 in interval notation, or with interval notation. And then B it goes infinitely to the negative side and has a 4 over here with a soft bracket. Okay, so we're just describing our graphs, or putting the solutions to our linear equations in interval notation, with stating our solutions in interval notation. All right, so let's just practice that for a second. So we have n is greater than -5. I make real quick -5 and 0. I just put a couple points on there. N is greater than -5. So that would be what? A soft bracket going that way. And it says and give interval notation. So this would be a -5 with a soft bracket, and it goes infinitely to the positive side. +3 is n is less than or equal to +3. So see how you can kind of see that that's negative infinity and then a 3 with that hard bracket. Okay, the homework is still going to have the open circles. So if you're still not clear about these, like in your homework, you're going to have to put that this is a open circle. I go that way. I could do both. Both will be accepted on the test. For me, make sure you ask your teacher what they want. Even if it says graph and then give interval notation, I'll take a graph that is less than or equal to, that's a solid going that way. But then I'll need the interval notation, okay? Make sure you're clear with your teacher what they're expecting, what they want you to do. For these that are backwards, I like to turn them around. It's pointing to the K. That's really what that is. Let's see, -2, that'd be 0. So that'd be less than, less than or equal to, hard bracket that way. So alrighty, this one's backwards. Greater than or equal to, and all real numbers. This is where this right here comes in. So you'll see a graph that looks like that on top of other, and that is all real numbers, and the interval notation for all real numbers is that one. Okay, I'm going to continue more on the next video.